Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. This sometimes happens with live radio, the need to pivot when plans go awry. Today's topic was the ongoing debate about Confederate monuments. If we remove them from the proverbial town square, are we erasing history? Unfortunately, our guest had a family emergency and is unable to join us. So instead, we are bringing back a show that got a lot of reaction from you, our listeners. It's all about the talk, and Dwayne Bryant pulls no punches about what to do when law enforcement pulls you over. Stay tuned for this archive edition of Another View, right after this news from NPR.
This Encore edition of Another View originally aired November 19th, 2020.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Flashing lights, racing heart, tense moment, the dreaded stop. Two officers jumped out of their vehicle. One approached on the passenger side with hand on his firearm, the other at my window. Their quick movements caused great concern, and will I become a statistic or make it home tonight? This is from the book, The Stop, and the author is our guest today on Another View, Dwayne Bryant. And Dwayne, I'm going to ask you to please mute your Zoom because I'm hearing double, and that's why, there we go. How are you this afternoon?
Barbara Ham-Lee!
It's been a minute. It's good to see you.
It is great to see you as well.
So,
at least in the background.
Absolutely. So the question is, did you make it home safely that night?
Listen, hallelujah. I made it home safely that night and every other night since. Yes, ma'am.
How are you doing in this time of turmoil and between the virus and the as I call it, racial pandemic that we're going through also? How are things going for you?
Yeah, you know what? Things are going well. There was a couple of moments where the impact of everything just hit me. Like I was watching the news. This was at least a few months ago, and I was looking at all of these deaths, and I just went in my room and just cried like a baby. And I'm like, whoa, I don't even know these people. Mm-hmm. And so it's just so interesting that when you're connected to humanity, you feel other people's pain. And so I had to literally create systems for myself where I don't watch the news anymore first thing in the morning. I get up, I read my word, I write in my journal, I pray, I stretch, I exercise, and then maybe twice, maybe 3 times a week, I might watch the news. But just working on new content for the students. And so I had to really say, in this time, because all things work together for the good. So I had to figure out what is my purpose in this time. So that's what I've been focusing on.
So Dwayne, you're a motivational speaker as well as an author and everything else. And I'm curious as to what the young people are saying to you as you talk to them about what's happening to our country and particularly to African-American males.
Sure. You have a lot of different things. So the young, in terms of elementary, middle school, they're having a very difficult time logging in. They're getting tired of it. They're disengaged. A lot of the teachers are not that exciting in the classroom. So then online, it's just worse. A lot of them are losing grandparents. Some of them are losing relatives. So they don't understand. I mean, even as adults, we don't understand this. We've never seen anything like this. So their developmental process is not where we are. So they just see it as what's going on. As you already know, suicide rates are higher. Yeah. Domestic violence is higher. So they're seeing a level of drama, a level of uncertainty that they've never seen. So they don't understand what does the end game look like? How do we get through this? In terms of the young adults, your high school, college age students, they're a little bit nervous as well because it's a whole new reality for them. In terms of police and community, that part of the question, I'm so proud of Generation Z because they're saying, listen, we're not going to take this stuff. I just saw a picture the other day with this sister holding this poster that said, we're not our ancestors. We're not the previous generation. We will F you up. I'm like, what?
Whoa.
So, yeah, they're not playing the way we played, that gradualism, that we shall overcome. they're not waiting for that. And what's neat, though, is the first time in the history of the planet Earth, white kids are right there with the black kids saying, yo, you my guy, I got you. We're not going to tolerate this stuff, even though, they see the hypocrisy in their homes, some of the white students. So they're like, listen, we should all be equal. We should all have the same opportunities. So this is probably the greatest moment in American history right now.
So you wrote The Stop in 2015.
Yes.
And I wonder, when you think about George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Your premise was really personal responsibility in the encounter with law enforcement. And I'm wondering, do you think now, based on these things that you've seen, that maybe you might have been a little too passive? What do you think?
I ain't never passive, Barbara Ham. However, I have better information now. I have better involvement now. So, for instance, since that time, I've graduated from the FBI Citizens Academy because what I wanted to do is I wanted to learn as much about law enforcement and every aspect of it as possible, and not just be a community member who's complaining about the injustice, but I wanted to understand how does it work. I've done town hall meetings with the former superintendent of Chicago Police Department. I'm a community advisor of COPA now, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, the largest, most effective police accountability organization in America, and 1% of our budget comes directly from Chicago Police Department. So as we're talking about defund, we were able to get dollars from the police department. Also, I'm aware that the FBI has stated that many neo-Nazis and Ku Klux Klan members have infiltrated law enforcement. So whenever you have a low-life person like that who's sworn to kill and destroy you, and now they have a badge and now they have a gun, when they approach you, you can do everything I said in my book, but they may be intent on killing you that day. So I'm not, quote unquote, passive. I'm aware, I'm alert, I'm more vigilant, and now I'm coming with a whole new level of power for my community, not just the black community, but here's the deal. Police misconduct and police killings is costing the nation billions of dollars annually. In Chicago from 2004 to 2020, that's almost $1 billion in that one city alone. So even white folk who don't care about black people getting killed, what they do care about is their money. What they do care about is their taxpayer dollars. So I'm hitting on all cylinders now. I'm talking to the community, black, the brown. I'm talking to the white folk about why they need to be just as invested in this as everyone else.
So let's go back and remind people and those who may not have heard our show that when we did this 5 years ago, right? But let's
when
talk
you
about
called me Uncle Tom.
No, not at all. But I do know that there are people who may push back a little bit because they're tired, as you said, the young people that you're talking to, they're tired of always having to be the one to keep themselves in check, to not be confrontational, etc. But let's go back to the whole premise behind The Stop, where you talk about pulling up to a stop sign, looking to your left, looking to your right, and then proceeding cautiously. And that's a metaphor for what you want people to think about.
Correct. So, and I still stand by that. So I say, just like when you're in driver's ed, they say when you approach a stop sign, you pull slowly, you look to your left, look to the right. Look to your left simply means I'm looking at what potentially about to happen. I don't know who this officer is. Now I have better information knowing that this could be the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan who's in a police uniform. So as I'm looking to my left, I'm assessing the situation because I may be the one who has to de-escalate. I may be the one who has to mitigate the circumstances because here's the reality. If this is my son, my daughter, my wife, my family member, and this officer is coming, I don't need them being the smartest one on the scene. I don't need them telling them they know their constitutional rights and do you know who I am? Forget all of that dumb junk. What I need them to do is to navigate that situation intelligently so that they can get home if they need to formulate a different strategy or solution. So looking to my left is what mind frame is this person? I'm reading their body language. I'm listening to the tone of their voice. I'm listening carefully to their word choices because I have to be able to navigate based on that. And anyone who says you should not have to do that, they need to wake up and understand what world we're really living in. Because if it's you and that officer on the back road, on the side road, they know the language. I was afraid for my life. They were reaching for a gun. They know when to turn the body camera on. They know when to turn it off. Okay, so you will lose in that situation. Look to my right simply says, look into my future. Where am I going on this planet? What is my destiny? What has God put me on this planet to do? Am I going to allow a 20-minute encounter to derail 20 years of my life? And so when you look at both of those things, and I don't just talk to the person who's being stopped, I talk to the police officers as well, because they need to be just as mindful when they look to their left. Who am I? What is my position? What is my demeanor? Are they profiling me? Are they dehumanizing me? Look to their right. Do they want this 20-minute encounter to derail 20 years of their life and their family? Because everybody's going to be impacted. So my whole premise is not just the police, not just the community, but both. We are all responsible for creating mutual respect, shared responsibility, and accountability. And I stand on that 5 years ago, and I stand on it more now that I have better information and better tools.
So tell us, Dwayne, then specifically, what is it that we are supposed to do when those red lights, blue lights, whatever color, go on and we're seeing the officer coming towards us?
Okay, there's a few things we're supposed to do, and it depends on, is it daytime or is it nighttime? Most encounters with law enforcement are vehicular, meaning some kind of driving incident. You failed to turn on the signal light. You didn't stop at a stop sign. So the first thing that you need to do, and I always say, when you get in that car, you need to know you have your driver's license on you, because a lot of people, like if you have a gym membership, you may have left it in the gym. Or if you're busy, you may have shown your ID, put it somewhere, and left it in another suit pocket or whatever. So before you get in that vehicle, by law, you're supposed to have your license. You're supposed to have your insurance. So how about we as human beings, as intelligent individuals, we have our stuff together so that when they ask for that, we have it readily available. Then when they're coming, when they're approaching the car, you're just waiting for them. So it's almost like a movie, right? They're the director, you're the actor in this movie. Find out what it is that they are looking for. Find out why they stop you. I would say the majority of police officers are good, decent people. They will tell you, this is why I stopped you. Did you know that your tail light is out and things like that? And it should not be a problem. If it's nighttime, turn on your dome light, because here's why. When police are stopping an individual, honestly, they're just as afraid as we are. So if you can imagine, they're scared of getting killed, they're scared of getting shot, you're scared of getting killed, you're scared of getting shot. So human nature is adrenaline is high, cortisol is high, stress level is high, blood pressure is up, and everybody's scared. So that means that we all need to be mitigating this situation to keep it calm so that, yes, sir, or some people say, well, why do I have to say yes? I'm raised in the South. I say yes, sir, to authority and parents. So if you're from the North, you can just say, yeah, what up, or whatever makes you feel comfortable. But I believe being respectful to authority is the best and the right way to go, even if authority is wrong, because ultimately the authority has more weight than what you have as an individual.
And you also have an opportunity on the other end if the authority...
Absolutely. And in my book, Chapter 3, I was in high school when I took my first officer to court. High school, little black boy, white police officer stopped me at a stop sign because my black friend jumped in the car. As we drove off, she said we were speeding in a 4-cylinder Chevrolet Chevette. Took her to court. Everyone was like, yo, do you want to just plead guilty because you're not going to win? The attorney is here, the city attorney is here, the judge is here, and the officers here, all white folks, and your little black butt. I was like, no, I wasn't wrong. I know this officer. I went to the mechanic. I got my report. I got letters from my teacher saying he's a 3.7 student at one of the top schools in Central Florida. I had character references. So when the judge threw that out, he told her, why are you wasting our time with this kind of frivolous thing? And at that point, that's when I said, I will never sit and allow a police officer to treat me any kind of way. I knew in high school it wasn't going to happen then, and it's doggone sure not going to happen now. But what we as a people need to learn is that you have rights, they have rights, and there's a recourse. But when you're stopped at that encounter, that is not the time to hold court. You hold court in court.
You will hear people say that I did everything I was supposed to do. The officer was just so rude to me, and I just blew up. What are your techniques to keep yourself from blowing up? Because in the instance that I read in the intro, you kind of lost it with the officer, if I remember that story correctly.
Which one? Because there's 7 encounters in the book from elementary school.
This is the one when you made the U-turn. You were running late. And you
look at you.
So would you tell our audience that story?
Yes. So that's chapter 6. I may die today.
Yes.
Absolutely. So here it is. I'm living downtown Chicago. Just resigned from Johnson & Johnson, driving my Lexus, and I made the U-turn. Guess what? I was wrong. You do not make a U-turn in a 4-lane road, okay? So I was wrong. My ego was high. I'm like, yo, these white boys stopping me because I'm a brother in a Lexus. Guess what? I didn't take responsibility. I didn't take accountability for my wrong action. So as soon as he comes over, I'm smart-mouthing, all right? So one comes to the right-hand side. This one comes to the driver's side. His hand is on his gun. My common sense should have said, dude, if this goes down anyway, you lose every which way it is. So I was on the phone talking, and the other thing is I'm riding on the phone doing the U-turn. So I'm all kinds of wrong, okay? So I have no excuse for that. So when the officer comes, now he's coming hot too. So here's the other thing I found out, that in the high-rise that I was living in, there were some drug boys living in my building. And the reality is they don't know if I'm them. They don't know if I'm me. They don't know who I am. So there's some reasonable suspicion that I could have been making a drop, picking up something, and now I'm leaving. So when he came very aggressive, and I'm going right back at him. So he's like, well, whose car is it? Who you think? Who car did you stop? What? So ego. And that's why as men, we have to seriously check our egos, because a lot of times we can prevent a lot of unnecessary drama and just calming down. And so I take full responsibility in that. So what I did is I ramped it up. He ramped it up to the point that he was like, do you want to make an issue out of this? We can get you out of that car right now. I'm like, and what? And then all of a sudden, my mind, it just came back to me. I was like, dude, if they get you out of this car and they put you in their car, you have no more control. And so I'm like, I need to keep this level of control that I have. And I was like, you know what, officer? My apologies. What do you need? I need you to put the goddamn phone down. No problem, officer. Phone is down. Now, whose car is this? Officer, it's my car. I purchased it. Well, when I run your tag, these tags are not for this car. Officer, can you please run those tags again? Because there has to be a mistake. Because one thing you'll see is that all my paperwork is correct. I have my license and registration, blah, blah, blah. And then as I'm talking calm, he begins to calm down. Because here's what I learned, and even in training with the police, they are not trained in de-escalation. Many of them, now they're doing it. They're trained to, if you go up, they go higher. If you go higher, they go higher. Because their training is, we must be in control of the situation at all times. So if I raise my voice, they raise their voice. Because the command is, the citizen needs to know that the police is in control at all times, according to what I learned from the training. And so as I'm ramping it up, he's ramping it up. And then when I began to calm it down, guess what? He began to calm it down. And that's why I say mutual respect, shared responsibility, because even though I felt as though, why is he stopping me? Yo, dude, you made the U-turn and you on your phone. That's 2. And when you made that right turn, you did not put on your signal light. That's 3.
In the Black and brown community, Dwayne, in particular, this is a conversation that probably happens more than the birds and the bees conversation happens in terms of what you need to do in order to come out of a police encounter alive. Are there tips or suggestions you have for parents on how they should talk to their young people about this and how they should handle themselves?
Absolutely. And the biggest tip is this. The reality is, honestly, parents don't know how to have this conversation. The reality is parents, particularly our Black mamas, they are mortified and terrified that their babies are going to leave this house. They may have a police encounter, and it's going to come back that their child is either locked up or has been beaten, or worse off, that they're killed. So instead of parents having the burden of having this conversation, guess what? I've done it for them. I created a whole online 17-part series entitled The New Conversation. If they go to my website, DwayneBryant.com, spelled correctly, DWAYNEBRYANT.com, the whole thing is available for them online. Now, I did have to put a price on it, but it's less than a pair of Michael Jordan shoes, and we did that intentionally because if you can buy some Jordans, you can invest in some intelligent information. But what this conversation does is it takes them 400 years ago to the history of the tension between police and the black community. It talks about the slave trade, the militia, the police code, the slave patrols, etc. It takes them through. It's a historical lesson. It talks about the AMA, the American Medical Association, that it's saying the impact of police brutality is having on our young people. It gives them tips about leadership. It gives them tips about how to handle themselves. So what I would suggest for parents to do is have this video where you sit down and have an interactive conversation. There's times when I say, hey, pause this video right here and talk to your child about this, where they need to have these open and honest conversations. Because at the end of this series, the child will be empowered. The parents will be empowered. They will know what their rights are, what the police rights are. They will know what their recourse is. And so ultimately, we're not trying to teach anyone to be afraid. We want everyone to be empowered. We want law enforcement to be empowered, but we need the community to be empowered. So to answer your question, parents don't have the answers. They don't know how to have this conversation. So let a professional handle it. Let me guide you and your children through this conversation so that you can resolve this so we don't have these fatalities that we've been having.
Okay, so can you give us one or two little tips to entice folks to go further?
Absolutely. So the first thing is, one, know who you are, right? You need to know yourself. You need to be understanding where you're planning to go in your life and that you cannot allow this 20-minute encounter to derail 20 years of your life. The second thing is have all of your paperwork and your documentation together, because a lot of times the police say that depending on what happened in that initial few minutes is how that whole encounter is going to go. So if you are driving legally, have your driver's license. If you're driving legally, have your registration. If you're in someone else's car, ask them before you get in the car. I've done that before, whereas I'm like, yo, I need to take a friend's car. Hey, let me ask you this question. Is your license and your stuff, is everything updated? Where's your insurance card? Because the last thing you want to do is be fumbling for something, not knowing where it is, because it makes you guilty. The other thing is if you're driving, you have to have a driver's license. So make sure that when the police ask you, you give them your license, and then listen to what they're asking you to do. I would not answer a whole lot of other questions because there's a lot of other things that could be happening. You could be in a vehicle, on a bike, or in an area that a crime just took place, and the person could, quote unquote, look like you. So you want to make sure if you're being detained, ask, am I being detained? Am I under arrest? Am I free to go? Because the police have a lot more information than what your child or what the other person does. So you don't want to be incriminating yourself by answering too many questions. If you stop, give up the driver's license. We don't need to have a long conversation. You need to be respectful at all times, because the reality is police are under a lot of stress right now and a lot of tension. And I think the suicide rate for police, believe it or not, is very high. In Chicago, it's 6 times higher than the national average. So what we need to do as human beings is everyone look at how do we respectfully engage in this encounter. If you're wrong, hey, take the ticket, either pay it or contest the ticket. You don't contest it on the street, you contest it later on in court. So those are the quick basics that I would say.
You're listening to an archive edition of Another View.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with motivational speaker and master storyteller Dwayne Bryant, author of The Stop. Let's go to Ray in Virginia Beach. Hi, Ray. You're on the air.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Sure. Thank you.
So here's something that I do. I'm almost 59. I'm Hispanic, and I'm originally from New Jersey, but don't hold that against me. So if I do get stopped, I don't know what it is. I've always done this. A lot of people will say, put your hands on the steering wheel. I put my hands out the window. And I've done that several times in my life while I've lived in Hampton Roads over the last 30 years. And the police officers always say to me, you're from New Jersey or you're from up north somewhere. And I say, absolutely. I have no issue, no issue. What I need to do, what do you need? And I try to basically nice and calmly give him no reason to go any further. That always doesn't work because, again, if he has another premise or something else that he really wants to do, he's going to do it irregardless of your attitude. So it doesn't matter. So I agree with Mr. Bryant. Try to de-escalate it as much as possible and just keep it moving. 20 minutes is 20 minutes. It's going to be real quick. Get the heck out of there and just keep it moving.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ray, for your call. Dwayne, you want to respond?
Yeah, no, he's absolutely right. And I forgot to say 10 and 2 because they normally say keep your hands on the wheel. When in the book we talk about when police shoot, because there are lawful shootings, but the majority of the time when police shoot is because the suspect is moving. They believe that they have a weapon. So you want to make sure, because you can't pose a threat to a police without something being in your hand. You can't take a knife in your mouth and jab them or something like that. So you want to keep your hands very visible because this makes the police officer less nervous. I was talking to a friend of mine, and it's actually in the book. She said when she was pulled over with her younger brother, he was looking for the cell phone because it had dropped in the bottom of the seat. So he's literally reaching, and she was so angry with him because I told her what the police is seeing from his car is, a lot of movement. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know the child is in the car that's afraid, that's trying to record this so when they get to their mom. How does he know it's not a grown man looking for a gun? So we have to be mindful of each other, of what the fear is for the other person. So hands out the window, I've never done that because that just, to me, is like, man, that just takes all my little dignity out of the window. But if that works for him, absolutely. Do what works for you. But to me, I absolutely keep my hands on the steering wheel. I don't have one hand on the side because those are potential instances where you can get shot lawfully.
Jeffrey joins us from Chesapeake. Hi, Jeffrey. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just want to comment and say that I agree wholeheartedly with the mutual respect aspect that Mr. Bryant is speaking of when you are confronted with a traffic stop. The best thing to do is to just be cooperative, and that goes a long way toward an expeditious and speedy, just getting over the process. If the officer's going to give you a ticket, he's going to just write you up and give it to you. But if there's some reason for them to start looking for some probable cause to charge you with something else, that's going to start from the individual having a bad attitude and giving them some negativity. Then they're going to start looking for other things. And I've had the same talk with my son, who is now 20, but and I'm chair of criminal justice board for the city of Chesapeake. So I've had to it's an ongoing talk. I make sure that I speak with his friends so that, they'll remain safe and are always respectful of the police so that the police will give them respect as well. It has to go both ways. So I agree a lot with what Mr. Bryant is saying, and that's what I just want to call and comment on that.
Okay, thanks so much for the call, Jeffrey. We appreciate that. So, it seems that do you think, Dwayne, that as you get older and as you have more life experience, it becomes easier for you to take the respect, to give the respect and so forth, but to also just decide that you're going to take the fight in another direction if it's necessary? Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I believe scientifically speaking, there's this thing called the prefrontal cortex that we all have, and it doesn't develop and mature until your mid-20s. So it affects your ability to make long-term decisions, short-term decisions, your ability to focus, your ability to concentrate, and your ability to control your emotions. So the younger you are, the least likely you are able to control these things because your emotional response is more advanced than your physical and your mental response. So as you get older, hopefully now, we got some ignorant grown folk who don't ever mature or evolve. So, short of them, absolutely. But I want to go back to something you asked earlier. I just pulled up. This is a visor that I created for my students that they can literally put into the visor of their car. And a lot of them have said this has helped there's like 9 different things. It says, 1, remain calm and think before you act. Number 2, slow down, safely pull over to your right when you can and make a complete stop. Number 3, stay in your car with both hands in sight on the steering wheel. Or as our brother Ryan said, hey, if you got to put them outside, then that makes you feel better. And wait for the officer to approach. Never run from the police. Number 3, do not get out of your vehicle unless asked to do so. The next one is show the officer your driver's license, vehicle registration, and proof of insurance when asked to do so. If stopped by police at night, turn your inside dome light on. This helps with safety concerns. The next one, if you do not agree with the reason for the citation, the reason for the stop, or even the officer's demeanor, keep track of all pertinent information about the stop, including the officer's name and identification number. Officers are unable to handle your complaint at the scene. The next one is if you do not agree with the reason you were ticketed or arrested, you have a right to legal representation, and all sides of your case can be presented in the court before a judge. The next one, if you are arrested, you have the right to remain silent and request for an attorney. Last one is always be respectful during the encounter. And the very last one is get home safely, enjoy college, military, or career, and create a beautiful life. So I created these. The Secretary of State in Illinois, Jesse White, we packed 750 of these for all of the students there with his program that were going to college. And it's just a little handy thing just in case if you're scared.
And if people want to get a copy of that, can they go to DwayneBryant.com?
You know what? I'm glad you said that. Right now, I just give it away free in the book.
Okay.
Because I haven't done anything outside of the Secretary of State office. So we'll figure that out, and I'll have an answer for you where they can either, you know what? I know what we're going to do. I'm going to have my web developer to create this, a download on the website for free, where they can go to my website, a parent can look at it and say, yo, print this up, stick this in the visor of your car, and this will be available as of Monday of next week because of Barbara Ham Lee, goddamn.
Michael joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Michael. You're on the air.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And Dwayne, you're wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I have just 2 quick points. I think we need to have your program as mandatory in all our driver ed courses across the country. And the second point is, I think you should be our point man in a special program for young black men to see what the African nations that most African Americans came from, see where those nations are now, what the standard of living is for blacks in those nations, how the police treat them in those nations, and then let's get together with a kind of Gettysburg address, new creation of a united America.
Okay, that's an interesting proposition. Thanks, Michael, for the call. Dwayne?
Mike. First of all, Mike, my brother's name is Michael, so I'm going to love you just like my brother. Mike, you said a lot. I would absolutely love to engage in any police department in any city that's seriously looking for solutions. I'm a 50-year-old grown man, never been arrested, no criminal history, went to college on a full academic scholarship. So I do understand the power of using your mind to navigate not just law enforcement, but the authority could be a teacher, it could be a professor, it could be, anywhere you are. In terms of the African nation, I have a multiple entry visa to Ghana. I've been to Africa several times. When I leave the U.S., I'm either in the Caribbean or Africa. I have a series called The Black Panther, and it's another free series. If you go to YouTube, go to my YouTube channel, and I talk about the movie The Black Panther, but I break down the different tribes that were actually in the movie. A lot of that movie is really factual, it's really true, and we got caught up in the hype of the movie, but we don't really understand the full depth of Africa. I've been to Egypt. I've been into the pyramids in Egypt. The pyramids were built by black people, and once we understand who we are as a people, and once the world understands who we are as a people, then we will understand that white supremacy is a myth. It is an illusion. It is a lie. It was intended to take some of the original people on the planet Earth, according to the Bible, Ethiopia, where man and woman first started, and to dispel who they truly are, dispel their true history. So if we really want to talk about uniting America and easing this racial divide, America has got to have the bold power to tell the truth about history. And I have a couple of other things on YouTube called The White Lie, called The Power of Truthful History. And so, Barbara, I hope all your subscribers go to the YouTube channel. Subscribe, please, but check out those free videos, and they will see the myth that American white supremacy has propagated. And it's so unfortunate because it makes everyone afraid of the black man. It makes everyone and woman, and it makes them feel as though they're inferior and have not contributed to civilization where they are the origins of civilization.
Wow. Let's go to William in Newport News. Hi, William. You're on the air.
Yeah, hey, Barbara. Russ Brown here. How you doing today?
I'm good. How you doing, Russ?
Hey, I'm doing okay.
Good.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to say is the fact that when I was younger, I grew up in the North, and whenever I got pulled over by the police, it was always something I did. So I was very humble, and I didn't cause a lot of problems. But once I got older and I moved down south, I realized that there was more of a power play. They would pull you over for whatever reason. And just like everybody else has stated, about the de-escalation, I realized if I raise my voice, they raise their voice. So the most important thing that I learned to do is if I want to wake up home in my bed, I will answer the questions. I'll be very humble towards the police officer, be it male or female. I've come across a couple of them that, weren't nice. So I was extra nice. I was overly nice. So I think the concept for us black folks is the fact that make sure that we follow their directions, take the fight another time. If you feel like they didn't do or they disrespected you, just offer them a whole lot more respect because it's easier to fight when you're alive than become a statistic if you try to fight back to them. That was my thought.
Thanks, Russ, so much for the call, and thanks for listening. We always appreciate you. Dwayne?
No, I think William is spot on. And so here's the deal, right? So we have a couple of different factors in the community. We have F the police. We have don't respect them no matter what. They come at you, you come at them. That is absolutely the most ignorant, wrong approach to take, because what we must be teaching ourselves and our people is respect is how you win. Now, I'm not talking about Uncle Tommen and sucking up and yes, Mr. Police Officer, I'm just so glad you stopped. No, ain't nobody talking about none of that dumb junk. Be a man, be a woman. However, being respectful is the highest form of man and the highest form of woman and the highest form of humanity, because sometimes you can shame a person in loving, being kind. There's a guy I spoke to the other day, AJ Ali, powerful brother, has this whole program called Love, and it's about driving while black, etc. But sometimes you can literally show people in your demeanor and your level of respect and dignity what they're lacking so that they can come up to your level versus you going down to theirs.
That's powerful stuff. Wow, let's go to Joe in Carrollton. Hi, Joe. You're on the air.
Hey.
Hey.
I want to say I agree with everything you're saying. I've been pulled, oh my God, umpteen time because I've always had a lead foot all my life, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned real quick that the least I said, the better off I would be. And saying yes, sir, no, sir, so forth and so on, have my license, registration, insurance card available. And then a lot of times, because of my attitude toward the policeman and giving him respect, I would get off with a warning. And me say, well, Mr. Evans, I'm going to let you go. Watch your speed, watch what you're doing. Yes, sir, officer, have a good day. I also drove an after-hours wrecker service for a wrecker outfit over here down in White County years ago. And if I got a call after midnight, you could, at 99% of the time, it would be for something somebody was doing that was stupid, for lack of a better word. And what I mean like that was be like a person would get pulled by a deputy or a burnout tail light and would stop him to let him know about the tail light. And then with the routine check, they would ask him for the license and registration for the car. Well, when the guy hands him the registration, hands him his license, he's driving on a restricted license that he's not even supposed to be on the road after 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
So
then the registration on the car would be expired. And like in one case, I remember where the plates that were on the car, which were expired, were actually registered to another car that was completely different make and model than what the guy was driving.
I got you, Joe. Let me let Dwayne respond to you because we got a lot of calls and we want to try to get to all of them before we run out of time. Thanks so much for the call. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Dwayne.
First of all, I want to say to old lead-foot Joe to slow down, man, and stop driving so doggone fast. Get that lead out your shoe. The second thing is he mentioned him getting warnings. Now, I want to be completely fair. Because one thing I've learned is that white people respect you when you are powerful enough to tell the truth. I want to submit to Joe that some of those times he's gotten warnings is because of his white skin. And I don't know if he's white, but I believe listening to him that he is white. And I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So there's this thing, Joe, called implicit and explicit bias. So if a white officer who has these biases sees me in my Mercedes, they automatically assume drug dealer, gangbanger, somebody, what did he do? Why is he driving this car? So I'm going to ask him a lot of other questions. I'm going to ask it in a way that may piss him off. Whereas with you, Leadfoot Joe, when they stop you, they may say, oh, this is Leadfoot Joe, good old boy. He looks like my uncle. He looks like my cousin. He looks like my brother. Well, listen, man, get on out of here and stop doing that stuff. And, don't let me catch you again, because if I catch you again, I'm going to give you a ticket. And so where Joe thought that, whoa, man, he's just a good officer, what really happened is a lot of white folk don't understand their white privilege is just showing up white. And so because of that, oftentimes you get a pass, whereas my black stuff would not have gotten that pass. So I'm glad he was able to experience those beautiful times, but everyone can't because of the color of their skin. So it depends. That's a 50-50 toss-up.
Absolutely. Then David joins us from Norfolk. Hi, David. You're on the air.
Hi, Barbara. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. The first thing I do, Barbara, when I'm pulled at night and I know it's dark and they can't see me and I can't see them, I turn my inside dome light on so they can see every move I make. And I have my window already cracked and I have my phone already turned on so that I can record our conversation so that if anything happened to me because of bigotry, then I know it's at least recorded on my phone. And number two, we as a black people should have been voted bigotry out of every level of office where we could have a better America altogether. I blame us for a lot of things that happen to us.
Okay.
That's my take.
Thank you so much, David, for the call. We appreciate that. Go ahead, Dwayne.
What up, David? Well, this is what I'm going to say. Malcolm X said, never blame the victim for his condition. Always blame the perpetrator of the condition of the victim. So I ain't blaming black people for this situation. If doggone they had left us in the doggone Africa, West and East Coast, we wouldn't be in none of these situations in the first place. So I'm not going to give us that responsibility because then you get to tell your slave master and the people who mistreated you, well, it's really my fault. No, it ain't your goddamn fault. It's their fault. And they got to hold that level of responsibility. But I am glad that he does the recording. I am glad that he's mindful and respectful of the police that turn on his lights and to help mitigate everything. But, and I agree with what he's saying regarding voting. I believe whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, as I am, that everyone should be exercising their right to vote because we just saw the power of the black vote and the power of that powerful black woman who just help the Democratic Party get that win. Let's go.
You're listening to an archive edition of Another View.
We got a message from Facebook where Gary from Norfolk says, dash cam, they're very good witnesses to any traffic stop because you can't argue with a video. He also says, I have a dash cam in my car that records outside my car and inside my car at all times. Is that something that you would suggest people do?
Absolutely, and I'm glad Gary said that because what I'm going to do is I'm going to update this and something that David said as well. If they can record before the police officer actually comes to the car, I do think that's an absolutely fantastic idea.
Okay, and we got Robert back on the...
It could be their cell phone, if they have the little sticky thing, but they have to be careful with that because then the police can say, hey, you're not supposed to have anything obstructing your view. So again, depending on who that police officer is, that could help or hurt that camera.
Okay. Robert, we tried to get you before. You're back. Thank you.
Yes, I'm back, and I am loving this show. because I have a young son, and he's driving now. But what I wanted to say to you, Barbara and Dwayne, are you familiar with the Green Book?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Dwayne, what you need to do is initiate a book called A Green Drive.
And what's gonna be in the book, Robert?
If you know something about the Green Book.
Let me explain for our audience that may not know what the Green Book is. The Green Book was a guide for African Americans in the 40s, 50s, 60s, where we could drive, where we could find a place to stop to get something to eat, where we could stay overnight when we needed to travel. It had all of that information because during segregation, you just couldn't pull up to any old Holiday Inn or other motel or hotel and get lodging. And so it provided all of that information. So, Robert, what do you want us to put into the Green Drive book?
Everything he said. Well, how to start, when you get to stop, what to do, how to react. And I just want to say, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but, law enforcement officers in general sometimes are inherently disrespectful to you.
Yeah, let me let Dwayne answer that because we're almost out of time, Robert, and I do want him to address that point. Dwayne, the whole idea of police being disrespectful, particularly to African Americans in general, and particularly to Black men.
Yeah, I totally do agree with that. There's a couple of things that Robert and everyone should understand. Right now, there's over 18,000 police departments in the United States of America. The minimum training is usually a high school diploma. Some of them might require an Associate of Arts degree. A lot of the training they get is state laws, criminal investigations, patrol procedures, firearm training, traffic control, but they don't train for bias. Many of them don't. Some of them are starting to do it now. They don't train for are you a racist? They don't train was your daddy, your pappy, the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, because if they are, then when they stop me as a Black man, that's going to be a completely different encounter. So I agree with what he's saying. Many police officers do have a level of disrespect. When I say many, it doesn't mean the majority, but it doesn't mean it's not the majority either. But here's the deal. The police officers are human beings and people within the community. So if we have crazy in the community, guess what? We got crazy in the law enforcement. If we have crazy within the police department and the community, we also have that both ways. So that's why I believe that everyone needs to be mindful of the respect game. Everyone needs to be mindful that do not allow this encounter to go beyond where it needs to go, and everything should be okay. But if you're a criminal and that police officer is handling you in that way, then that may be what you deserve as well.
I'm going to try to get this last call in. We've got about 4 minutes left. Jay from Newport News. Man. Jay, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay.
Yes, I had a question, and you kind of hit on it a little bit in regards to me dealing with the source of the problem. I know we always talk about Black men and Black people all together, how we need to have a certain standard when we're encountering the law enforcement. But if we already know that it's been infiltrated by those who wish to do us harm, why isn't there a policy or a plan in place to remove these people? I know that, law enforcement is the same as the military. I'm also a vet, where you are a product of your society. The voting system just proved how divided we are. Those same people who have those ideals are in positions in like lawyers, judges, as well as police force. Why isn't there something in place to deal with those specific people to say, okay, this person is showing signs of aggression or racist intent towards Black people, outside of getting them training, getting them counseling, or just remove them altogether? Because they should, I believe that they should not have the will to end their life as easily with the backing of the criminal justice system if they already have the intent of the disrespect and the ill will towards a specific group of people.
Okay, Jay, thanks so much for the call. I hate to cut you off, but we only have about 3 minutes left, and I want Dwayne to have time to answer you.
Sure. Well, he poses a great question, and it's not just a question of the police officer. It's a whole system that has been designed to mass incarcerate Black people, specifically brown people generally. So there's a thing called police unions. Police unions, some of them are the biggest threat to the black community because they uphold almost any wrongdoing that their officers do. There's another thing we need to understand. That myth of a few bad apples is the biggest lie that's ever been told. It's way more than a few bad apples. It's orchards. For instance, there have been well over 30,000 law enforcement officers who's lost their certification, 4,500 for drug and alcohol. That means these suckers are showing up with drugs in their system, drunk, and then they stopping you. It's not going to be a good outcome. Assault and violence, 3,200. Dishonesty, 2,777. That means they're lying when they get stopped. They're lying on the police report. Theft, 2,600. Misconduct of prisoners, 2,200. Sexual misconduct, 1,950. And the majority of people who are getting sexually assaulted under the hands of law enforcement are black women. So we need to get past that myth of a few bad apples and understand that this is a systemic problem. It also goes to some of the judges. There's judges who've been getting millions of dollars to lock up 4,000 black and brown teens. So this problem is huge. Even the prison system, now you put these prisons way out there in these suburban areas, rural areas, so you build up McDonald's, you build up hotels, and guess who that benefits? It benefits the white people in these rural areas because now they can have some level of existence on the back of the former slaves, which are now the black and brown people in America, or the black people who are the slaves. So this system is huge, right? There's so many different things and so many different facets, but every community can challenge these police unions right now, immediately.
Dwayne, we got to go. We're out of time. DwayneBryant.com if you want to know more information. Absolutely. And thank you so very much again for joining us.
And Lisa, you have a good day too, doggone it.
And thank you so much for spending some time with us today. If you'd like to hear this show again or share it with a friend, please visit our website, anotherviewradio.org. And don't forget to sign up for our eView newsletter, a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. We're on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter at Barbara Ham Lee, while, of course, following CDC guidelines in response to the coronavirus pandemic, washing our hands frequently, staying 6 feet apart, and wearing our masks. Keep your gatherings small and within your bubble. The sooner we buckle down and stop the spread, the sooner we can all get back to our normal lives. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Todd Washburn is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee for Another View.